All right, Rob, we've touched on it briefly, but now let's go all in on the Dallas Cowboys. Rob, you and I, neither one of us, we were aligned on this. There's not much we agree on. We agreed on this beginning of the season. We both picked Dallas to win the NFC East because we didn't buy in or believe in the Philadelphia Eagles. I now believe in the Eagles. I'm not sure where you are. I think they're the best team in the NFC, and I think I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm saying I think they're playing the best football in the entire league. But Rob, Dallas, to me, what happened yesterday, and I get it. And Rob, generally, I am a win is a win guy. When it comes to professional sports, particularly the NFL and the NBA, and even baseball, in a regular season that is long, right? Months long, half a year long, a win is a win. Whether it's 17 games, 82 games, 162 games, there are times you're just going to have a clunker, right? You're just not going to have it. Some inferior team is going to beat you. So I get all that. But Rob, I'm not giving the Dallas Cowboys that type of pass because of their history. They had their clunker, if you will, against Green Bay, who we know is a bad football team this year. And what I saw yesterday when the Dallas Cowboys needed a last-minute drive, 98 yards, to beat the hapless 1-11-1 Houston Texans, who have the worst record in the NFL. When it took all of that to beat the Texans, it just, to me, furthered my belief, Rob, that while the Cowboys' ceiling, it might be the highest in the NFC. If everybody in the NFC plays their A game, Dallas might be the best. Certainly put them up there with Philly and San Francisco and whoever else. But, Rob, I think of all the contenders, they are the most likely to play their F game at any given moment.
Did you curse, Chris? What'd you say?
No, F is in flunking grade.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Their F game at any time. It could be a regular season Sunday. It could be a playoff Saturday or Sunday. But the Cowboys, you just don't know. And, Rob, I think they're going to bring an F, a D, a C- game at some point in the playoffs. And that's why I firmly believe they will not get out of the NFC.
It's hard to argue with that just because of what we've seen. And it's not like they've never made the playoffs. They have. I mean, but when you talk about this franchise and what's happened, I think we talked about it before, Chris. There's only like 3 or 4 teams that haven't been to a conference championship in the last.
Which is incredible, Rob.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, it'd be like the Steelers never doing it. You know, like they are a flagship franchise.
Right. It's the Cowboys. It's the Browns, who Chris is an expansion team. It's the Lions.
And I hear you. Those are the historically flagship teams. But I'm saying they have been a great franchise up until this last quarter century. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I mean. Like they have been a fantastic. When you and I were growing up, they were great. In the 70s, they were great. In the 80s, in the 80s, they down a little. In the 90s, obviously, they won 3 Super Bowls.
And even now, Chris, while people always talk about the Cowboys and their part of it, I think there's twofold when they claim they're America's team. But I think a lot of people also like to watch them lose. Like, how bad is it going to be this time? What's going to happen? How great is it to see Jerry Jones's face? You know what I mean, Chris? After another letdown,
right? They're polarizing in that regard.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who are who would love to watch them for that reason. But anyway, I just think yesterday was an example. The Packers game was an example. Yeah. There are just moments when you just aren't sure which team. Last year, Chris, they led the league in points, right? Scoring average or whatever. And what happened? struggled at home to score. I think they scored late, right, to make it look respectable, but they were out of that game. They couldn't get anything. I think that was at the point when you got off of Dak, I think, right? Like last year. Remember, it was just.
I thought Dak was in. I've always liked him. I've always felt he has the intangibles and all that leadership. I generally was saying he was a game manager with playmaking ability. But I grew to the point, Rob, where I thought he was en route to being elite. And that was the phrase I used. And no, I don't think that. I think he's a good quarterback. He's obviously well above average, but he is not elite. And I don't think he's ever going to be like the Burrows and the Mahomes and the Rodgers, the old Aaron Rodgers, the old Tom Brady, that class. Like, I don't think he'll ever be in that upper echelon of quarterback. Maybe
he's been around for a while, and Chris, it would have happened by now, right? It would have happened.
You would think, yeah. That's a good
and maybe I don't know. Maybe he has an unbelievable playoff run, and we'll eat our words. But I'm with you. The Cowboys scare me all the time. You just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, yes, the odds makers, 17.5-point favorites, Chris, yesterday, 17.5. That's because they looked at the 50. They look at the Texans who have won one game all year.
Yep.
Even though it's on the road, you just go like, come on, Cowboys, this is cake. Taking cake from a baby, right? And as you said, they need a miraculous drive to win the game. Miraculous drive. Imagine if it didn't happen, didn't come together,
That would have
Chris.
been a horrible loss, Rob. A horrible. This is a team in Houston that had lost the week before by 13 to the Browns when Deshaun Watson was horrific in his first game back.
He's still
They had
struggling.
lost by 15 before that to the Dolphins, by 13 to the Commanders.
Right, that's why they thought 17 by the Cowboys coming off the 50 points, no doubt. I mean, they just thought they've been losing by double digits, all season long for the most part, and this was a squeaker playing down to the competition. The Cowboys are scary bad, not scary good, scary bad.
Rob, and Dak, look, obviously he's far better than Cooper Rush. No, we're not going there. But, Rob, 2 bad interceptions yesterday. He's got 5 interceptions in his last 3 games. He's got 7 interceptions in his last 5 games. I mean, Dak Prescott has got to be smarter with the football. And yesterday, and we talk about it, right? Dak should throw about 30 times a game. That's it. And yesterday he had to throw 39 because they were down. And you saw that they struggled against the worst football team in the league.
Right.
And they cannot get themselves in a hole, which certainly can happen in the playoffs. But if they have to rely on Dak carrying them with his arm, they're in trouble. If they can, get their run game going and stay in the game and run the football most of the time, they could be better off.
Yeah, that's not what you want to do, right? You want to, like, ball control. You got 2 good running back, 1 good, very exceptional running back, and Tony Pollard, and you got Ezekiel. And you want to run the football, Chris, and throw when it's open. Throw when there's a situation. Throw when you're 3rd down. There are situations you need your quarterback to make a play, keep the chains moving, whatever it might be. But, yeah.
The other thing, Rob, is what
I don't
was
feel that
carrying
great.
them? That defense, right? That defense was carrying them. But then you go out and give up 23 points to the Texans, who were averaging like 16 points a game. You get 0 sacks against the Texans.
Now that's shocking.
Yeah, they have been the sack-happy Cowboys. And Micah Parsons, now again, it's only a few games, but he hasn't been that guy the last few games. And he did not put his imprint on that game yesterday. And look, maybe we're wrong, Rob. Maybe it was just one of those weekends. But again, it seems to happen too often with the Cowboys. We talked about it. The Packers
point
ain't playing good football.
Right, at that point, and they were down bad, Chris.
Yep.
Like they were down bad. They were bloodied. They were beaten. And for them to get off the mat and win that game, that was just a shocker. And what was the record? We said it, 100 and something, Like it had never the Cowboys 175-0 or whatever. Like that was like an unheard of game where they gave up, where they were up by 14 points going into the fourth quarter. They had never lost, including the playoffs, Chris, ever.
So Rob, like I said, I think their ceiling is as high as anybody in the NFC, but I'm not giving them I don't think they'll get out of the NFC. I think it's going to be either Philly or San Francisco in a bad conference. And Rob, I said this months ago. If Dak Prescott is who Jerry Jones and the Cowboys faithful think he is, who that $40 million a year contract says he is, they at least get to the NFC title game.
They should.
If they get there and lose to a better Philly team, then so be it. There's not going to be any shame.
But I'm not even convinced of that. I'm not even.
So
convinced
you're not a believer in Philly.
No, I'm saying I'm not a believer in Dallas getting to the NFC Championship
I agree with
game.
that. I agree with you. Yeah, I tend to think they won't.
I think that they could get knocked out by some lesser team. I do believe that.
Yeah.